Hello, Sagittarius. We are going to take a look at some of the stories that could be coming through for your energy. Keep in mind that if you resonate with the story, it could be you, the roles could be reversed. It could also be someone that's directly related to you or indirectly related. So you'll know when you hear it. Um, obviously, this will not be for everyone, but it could be fun to listen in so you kind of get an idea about what's going on around you. Okay. So, as I was preparing for the reading, the cards that came out are focusing on a theme of a person who is healing after some type of turbulent situation. And they're trying to focus on the positive as they move forward and become a person who is able to see a bigger picture, think big for their future as they heal their mind, body, and spirit from whatever it is that they came through, looking for balance from being trapped within your own self, your own thoughts, self limiting beliefs and ideas, and just kind of moving into calmer waters. I feel like something that could help this individual or the individuals involved in this is to try to surround yourself with music or anything that's creative that inspires you and helps you to get to a space that you want to be at. So for example, if you're feeling sad, listening to more songs about, you know, things that incite you into more sadness might not be the best idea. However, I think that when you're doing your shadow work and you're trying to heal that could be helpful. But I feel like the fact that these cards that fill out are saying to focus on the light at this time, it may be because you have been disproportionately focused on the negative, on the things that have triggered you and caused the pain. So, this is not saying to spiritually bypass those things that may have happened so that you act like they didn't happen, but to try to integrate that a little better by focusing on both the dark and the light in a more balanced way. All right. And it's funny because I got the Temperance card for you, which is actually the card for Sagittarius um, in the tarot. And so to me, it's talking about balancing out those emotions and that being key to you moving up into your rightful place as the queen or king that you are, that you've always been, and allowing you to really be that in your everyday life, to show up that way in your life right now, not in the future, not in some distant, parallel reality or another life, but right now. All right. So let's take a look at the characters who we will be discussing today. All right. Our first character I have is more than likely a woman who has really tapped into her own power. She's showing up as the Queen of Swords. And to me, this is a woman that could be, sometimes this is the divorced woman. It can be, or it could be a divorced man. All right. It could be someone who made a decision to leave something behind that no longer served them. They're using their discernment to judge things that are brought before them. And they don't hesitate to use their logic, not just their emotions, but their logic to really discern what's being presented to them as being false or real. And they don't hesitate to take action accordingly. All right, this is a person who is very connected to themselves. They're in touch with their inner intuition. They're in touch with, their own soul. They've done that integration work, or they're in the process of doing that integration work that we talked about earlier, with focusing on both the positive and the negative, so that moving forward you have a balanced perspective on that. And as you are, you go through different situations and different things are presented to you, you're able to conduct yourself in accordance to what's appropriate for that situation. Now, our second person is showing up as someone who may be considerably, I feel like, either younger in age or someone who is immature. Okay. This person to me seems to be immature in the sense that they focus on the material. This is a person who, although they're focused on the material, they may not feel like they have a lot to offer. They might be in that they might have almost, I don't want to say an inflated sense of self-importance, but I feel like the fact that this person is very focused on material gain, that comes from a place of not having a lot, or feeling as if they don't have a lot to offer in the material realm. It's caused them to have a diluted sense of what is important and what will give them happiness and what will give them joy. And as a result of that, I get the impression that this individual is more focused on things that are superficial and not really in alignment with the reality of what's for their highest good, as opposed to this other individual who is very much in touch and in tune with themselves, very much able to exercise discernment. And this is the kind of the polarity of the two where this is concerned. This could be a child. I mean, this could also be, a mother and a child, or a parent and a child. But we'll take a look and see what is the dynamic between the two. All right, so the dynamic between these two seems to be that this very independent, in touch with themselves person is financially secure. And the other individual feels that they will get emotional fulfillment from engaging with this person. The reason being that this individual is very much caught up on what looks like the illusion of material gain as being a source of emotional fulfillment and internal joy. All right. It seems like this person's sense of spiritual well being is very heavily tied to the material realm. Whereas this other individual, who is in a Nine of Pentacles energy as a result of being the Queen of Swords, someone who is discerning, who exercises good judgment, who is in touch with themselves and is in tune with themselves, and is able to create the type of material abundance that they need in accordance to the situation that they're in. All right. So what is conflict between these two? Is there a conflict? What is the conflict? All right, so the conflict between these two individuals is that it seems as if there's not a new beginning taking place. So what's coming out is that I think a secret came out about some type of financial abuse that was taking place. I feel that this was happening on the part of the individual who was overly dependent upon material possessions in order to have a sense of internal fulfillment. And as a result of that, when our first character, when this queen found out about this, she decided to exercise her judgment and not give a beginning, or not take a step with this person. It's coming across as if they were maybe planning a future together, or maybe going into business together. And because this first character was able to discern that maybe the motives of this person may have been off and maybe not in the same alignment as them, that it was a bad idea to continue in a partnership. So there may have been some conflict, maybe a lot of people involved on the outside of this situation. And so there may have been a lot of chaotic interaction that was taking place that led to this decision. I get the impression that, our first character is not into a lot of drama and what also looks like competition. Because I'm picking up that although this other person was not as materially abundant as our first character, and just quite honestly may not have even had as much to offer, this person's seems to have had a very inflated sense of self-importance to where, uh, he or she may have felt like they were better than the person who, I'm getting was kind of the hand that was feeding them. They felt like they were better than this person. And so, in the search for that sense of, feeding that, maybe some attention seeking is what's coming out, and this sounds negative. I don't mean for that, but that's what's coming out. Um, I'm getting that this person may have even been kind of using this other person. And that's what came out, was that this first person began to realize that, hey, this person isn't really in this for me as a person. They're in this relationship or this partnership, this business connection, whatever it may have been. They're only in this because of what they can get from me. My value and my worth to this person is completely dependent upon what it is that they can extract from me materially. And I'm also getting that this person may have been also getting a sense of self importance and self worth, kind of like clout from being associated with this person. So, this person's high energy vibration that they had, um, that they've developed over time by becoming the Queen of Swords, because somebody who is in the Queen of Swords energy is a person who has been through a lot. They've been through trials and tribulations, and they have risen above that in order to become that. That's how they learn to use their judgment and discernment to figure out what's good for them and what's not, because they've been burned. This is someone who's been burned and mistreated in the past. And, I've noticed sometimes a person that's in the Queen of Swords was in the Queen of Cups energy, which is very heartfelt emotion and devoted. And when that person is burned so badly and mistreated, they become the Queen of Swords because of that. And so I'm picking up that this person began to realize that the other person was using them for clout, and because it was giving them attention that they were then putting on themselves and giving to other people, is what I'm picking up. They were using it to kind of build up their sense of self because they did not feel confident in themselves. I mean, I hate to say that the person just had, these nefarious intentions. Sometimes people do, but I really feel like it's coming from a place of just having a low sense of self-worth, not having a sense of self-worth and having to connect to the material realm and getting a sense of worth from what you have, how much money you have, what kind of house do you live in, and what people think about you because of what you have. And being associated with this woman or this man was giving them that. It was feeding that energy for them. But in the process of that, it was giving them this sense of self-importance that began to trump even the person who was feeding them that energy. um, on a more lower vibrational, level, I would say that this person may have even had some narcissistic tendencies, and this woman or this man was also a source for them, a source of supply. They were getting supply from this person's accomplishments and how being connected to them was impacting their social circle or how people viewed them and how people treated them. But at the end of the day, they still were not a person who had done the work to become, in the Queen of Swords energy, a person who can use good judgment and discernment and make choices that will bring you to the Nine of Pentacles, which is that financial independence, being able to provide for yourself and being content with whether you have it or not, because your sense of importance comes from your trust and your love and your respect of your own person, that you respect yourself enough to use discernments to cut through anything that could harm your well-being, your personal well-being. Okay. Let's get some more about this. Yeah, I feel like it was becoming a burden over time. And I think that this first character, began to watch carefully how their partner was moving and what they were doing and how they were interacting with others. And as they were looking and using their discernment and judgment, they may have been getting intuitive hits that, something is off. This person is saying all the right things, they're doing all the right things, but, I'm putting a lot more into this than what they are. They're getting all the spoils of what I'm putting into this relationship and giving very little back. And, love can conquer a lot, but when it's not being reciprocated fairly, we can see that. And so I'm getting the sense that this queen was recognizing that they were putting a lot more in and they were getting maybe just a little bit back. And the fact that this other person may not have had a lot materially was probably never an issue to him or her. And so there wasn't even an expectation that they would be able to reciprocate materially. But what this person recognized is that maybe they were being breadcrumbed on an emotional level, because I'm seeing all of the emotional energy and stuff going towards this other individual, and what this first character was receiving in return was burdens, conflict, having to watch and not being sure if they're being given the whole picture, um, and recognizing that ultimately they were being used. They were, this sounds, I don't want to say that, but it almost feels like they were kind of picked out because there was something about them that this character recognized that they could play upon and do just enough to get in good and have them feel as if they're in this reciprocating relationship when in fact it wasn't. Or maybe they even offered them a little bit of funds to make it seem like they were matching them. But in order to even give that to them, they were taking from others. There's some, I feel like there was a secret of some type of financial abuse that was happening. So I don't know if there was some kind of underhanded scamming that was going on in order to put on an air that they were matching them. But ultimately, this is kind of a story of someone who may have been just trying to be in a connection with someone because of what they could get from it financially. And the other person was actually looking for a solid, real connection. And they're recognizing that they weren't picked for who they are, they were picked for what they could give this other person. All right. And after watching and, maybe doing a little spying of their own, I feel like this person may have even been going to readers and watching tarot and getting information. They began to recognize that this person was methodically moving in order to kind of maybe climb a social ladder or, build up their own finances by making a move towards them. I don't feel like this was an actual emotional um, connection where they were trying to create an actual heart connection. This was a pentacle connection. This was a heart connection. And this person may have taken a lot of maybe some negative actions on the periphery in order to make that happen, while presenting it as if it was, a pure heart connection, and it wasn't. Let's see. Yes. So I'm saying that this person, the second person who was taking advantage of this queen may have even been involved in maybe some dark magic, and they were, even doing some stuff on the side and listening to, we listen to our guides, we listen to, it could be your ancestors, to learn how to move in our life, to put us on our highest path so that we can get to where we need to go. I feel like this individual may have been listening to the sides of ourselves that kind of show us how to get to where we want to go, but in ways that harm others, that take from others, that don't serve our highest path. They serve our ego and they serve us on the material realm, but they take much more from us in the long term because we cross ourselves up with energy and karma that has to then be repaid in order to make that happen. So let's yeah. So our first character, definitely after doing some of her own research and recognizing the true motives of her partner, began to see that this person is not really focusing on the light. And I feel like this is the storm that, this may have already happened. And so what this woman is looking at, or this man is looking at, is the lesson that they learned from interacting with an individual who chooses to engage with them in such a manipulative way, to try to take from them much more than they could ever offer. And so I feel like our first person is really focusing on, the seven heavenly virtues of goodness and kindness and love and long suffering, all of that, in order to heal and move forward from this and focus on their best potential, and to align themselves with people who are equal matches for them. Because there may have even been some sense of wanting to build with this person, and the harsh recognition that you can't build with someone who is not actually trying to be a team player. Okay. There was a sense of wanting to co-create and work together. But whatever you connect with, you're going to manifest from where they are. So if you're a high vibrational person and you like to discern what's right from wrong, and you're connecting with someone who doesn't do that, who doesn't mind cutting corners, who doesn't mind stepping on whoever they need to get to where they need to be, whatever you create is going to be a combination of that. It's going to be a reflection of that energy. And many times it may not be viable. Just like if you have, let's say, for example, you have a horse and a donkey. Can they co-create together? Yes, they can. They give birth to a mule. But is that mule going to go any further than that initial creation? No. So you'll have that initial birth, you'll create that one thing, but it won't be fruitful. And once that passes and it dies, there's nothing left to carry on the legacy. There will be no legacy. You'll have creation without legacy. You have creation without being able to pass it on to the future. Creation without longevity. Creation that lasts for the moment, but will never blossom beyond what it is because it's not viable. Dream a beautiful dream. This relationship or this connection has come to an end, and our first character has decided that instead of focusing on the negative of what happened, he or she is going to focus on moving forward into the future and creating the kind of reality that they want to live in, not the reality that someone else wants to co opt from them. And being a person that is discerning and able to distinguish the difference between what is going to be for the best, for their own highest good, versus what's going to be the best for someone else, while they're breadcrumbed back little pieces of what they would like to maybe kind of somewhat have if somebody would give it to them, while they're giving the world to someone else. They're recognizing that they can create that for themselves, and they can connect with others who are willing to also reflect that back, so that whatever they create will have longevity, it will have legacy attached to it, and it will be fruitful and multiply. All right, my beautiful people, thank you for joining me on this episode, and I will see you on our next video of Days of Our Lives Tarot.